Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to CommerceBytes November edition. The first session will be by Saurabh, and he will be talking about minions in Sitecore Commerce. So, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Saurabh. Saurabh, over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Let me share my screen. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending upon where you're joining us from today. My name is Saurabh Sachdeva, and I'm going to introduce myself very shortly. But today we're meeting to discuss the minions in Sitecore Commerce. So, as I said, my name is Saurabh Sachdeva, and I'm the founder of Assurex, an engineering agency specializing in Sitecore. And we have recently been recognized as a Sitecore Silver Partner. I've been working in Sitecore Commerce since 2016, I believe. It's been like almost 4.5 years. And if you want to discuss anything related to commerce or any other world-related events, please reach out to me on the coordinates listed on your screen. So you can go on the LinkedIn, Twitter, or email me at my email address. So let's get this started. So what are we going? I'm going to tell you about minions, what minions are, and then we are going to show you the demo how the minion works in Sitecore Commerce. So what are minions? So in a normal commerce website, you will see a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. So when the orders are being placed, when the carts are being abandoned and all those things. So those tasks needs to be taken care of behind the scenes. For example, if the order has been placed, it needs to be moved across the statuses, or maybe when you are when the cart is being abandoned for a while, you need to purge those carts. So minions are the place to handle those kind of scenarios. So what they do is like they do transaction processing, they do entity indexing, which means all the indexing, the site code search indexing has been done by minions, and the other management operations like purging of carts, moving the items between the lists. So how they do it? They work on a list. So minions work on a list. So they watch a list, and I'll show you how it happens. They action on the entities in the list. So in everything in Sitecore Commerce is an entity. So they work on the entities in the list, and then move the entities between the lists. So one of the scenarios, which has not been out of box, but I wanted to give you an idea, is when you are opting for a subscription, when you're providing a subscription functionality. So you might want to place an order every month or every quarter, depending upon the frequency that have been chosen by the customer. So these orders, such kind of orders or the subscription can reside into a list. And then Minion can pick up from that list and create the orders. So what does that mean is like, they are picking the orders from one list and moving into the another list. So maybe, it will go into the pending order, released order, whatever order status that you want to kind of involve. So those are the kind of activities minions will do. So how do you configure a minion? A minion can be configured using the policies. So most of the stuff that you do, configuration or behavioral changes, is done through policies in Sitecore Commerce. And what I'm assuming is like, you have an idea about the policies or the plugins of the Sitecore model. Otherwise, you can get onto our website and look at our blogs where we have discussed what plugins are. So minions actually are defined in the minions environment. So that's the thing that I like about Sitecore Commerce is they've got a separate environment for minion where this scheduled job or the asynchronously repetitive activities can taken care of without affecting your production environment. So they are hosted in their own environments, and they are configured in a plugin, in a JSON, which is a policy set, minion policy set, which I'm going to go into the detail in the next slide. But minion environment, it is doesn't affect the other environments outside of its environment, and then you can configure the minion in the policy sets, like I'll show you now. So when you're defining a minion, you need to specify how often it should run. So it should run maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, or maybe depending upon if we take an example of a subscription minion, it might run at like as a frequency of 24 hours. So that means like heavy processing jobs, you can leave it towards the leaner period of the day rather than doing it in line. So that's offer some kind of flexibility to improve the performance. Okay, then you have to specify which list it should watch. So there are a few lists that a minion can watch. One of the lists is like pending order list. then the release order list. So that's the order status. These are the lists that been provided to you out of box by Sitecore. But you can create your own list. You can extend the out of box list to add your own stuff. And where taking an example of the subscription model, you will create a subscription list when the order is being placed, and everything will go into that list, and that will be the list to watch for that minion. Then you have to specify the fully qualified minion name. So it's type, the implementation type, and the concrete implementation. I'll show you how to do that in the demo. And then we need to specify the number of items the minion is going to fetch at once. So you want to increase the batch size if you're doing a lean period processing. But if you're doing a kind of normal processing, your batch time should be kind of a batch should be smaller. And how long a minion should sleep before the execution. So how do it's like a sleep timer, when minion execute, check something and go back to sleep. So you have to specify all these settings. From 9.2 onwards, you can specify the list of entities in the minion policy itself. So these are in case, for example, if you specify one of the entities as order entities. So if that entity is being processed by other minion, and my minion wakes up and checks, oh, this entity is being kind of processed by other minion. So the current minion will not execute. It will stop and wait for the next cycle to run. And the reason that happens, just to avoid the deadlock situation if they are trying to access the same resources or same things at the same time. So these are the things that have been provided out of box by Sitecore. And most importantly, Sitecore provides a very flexible platform, and you can actually uh, basically override, or not override, maybe I will say extend is the word. You can extend pretty much everything in it. So these are the minion policies, and we should differentiate minion policies from the plugin policies. So although they look the same, they act the same, and everything about them is same. It's just that when you have a policy in Sitecore Commerce, they define the behavior of the plugin. So if I specify something in the policy, I can use that in my code logic to execute something. So similarly, minion is also a type of plugin. So you can define the minion policies, minion environment policies into commerce minion dot, you can create your own policy set here, and you can define that within the commerce minion.json. So it's different from the previously defined policy, which governs the execution parameter. So previous policy that we saw in this on the screen, it governs the execution parameter, how frequently it should run, how it should run, what it should do in terms of like how it is being executed. But in this, it defines the behavior. For example, if I'm like the demo that I'm going to show you today, we are exporting order to a file system. But if you want to, you can actually export this to maybe a Azure blob, and you can define these settings in the policy set. So you don't have to write a new code. What is going to happen is you are going to add those conditions within your code, and depending upon the policy changes, you can actually change the behavior of the minion. So there will not be any requirement for any deployments. So you just go and change the parameters that have been passed to the minion, and bootstrap your environment to make the minion run in a different way. So currently our minion will be writing to the file, but you can go change the execution parameter, and then it will write it to the Azure blob by providing the specific settings. So that's the kind of flexibility the policies offer in Sitecore Commerce generally, and you can use the same thing with the minions. So how do you define that? So you create a new policy set, and you can one of the best ways to do it is to copy from the existing policy. So this one I've copied from, for example, Braintree policy, which has been provided out of box by Sitecore. So you define the policy set name, and then you specify the parameters to be passed through, which are highlighted in yellow on the top left corner of your screens. Similarly, on the bottom right corner, once the policy set has been defined, you have to provide the reference to that policy set in the habitat minion environment JSON. So Sitecore environment doesn't know this policy set exists. So you have to actually specify in the habitat minion.json file, which is on the bottom right of the bottom right corner of your screens. So here, once you specify that, you can see the highlighted section. You can copy any other entry there, and just update the policy set ID over there. And after that, you bootstrap the Sitecore Commerce environment. So bootstrapping is the process where all the JSON files are moved into the databases. And after that, they're not used. So JSON files are not used except for, you make any changes and then bootstrap again. But once that has been done, everything is transferred to the database, and that's not being used. So, one of the thing is like, there was issues initially when, when we were looking at minions. There was no boss minion at that point in time, and I'll explain you what boss minion is. So what happened was like, every minion has used to get its own list and process it, but Sitecore has introduced a concept of boss minion, wherein one minion acts like a boss, and then it processes the main list. For example, in the minion one, like minion boss minion will process the pending order list, and then there will be sublist. So this, and then sublist is being watched by the children. So boss minion responsibility is to kind of allocate the task between the children. So what is going to happen is, they're going to process the main list, pick up the item and delegate into a sublist, and where the children can go in and pick up. So each children will have their own list to watch, and yeah, and main list will be the responsibility of the boss minion. So how do you configure that? So you will see like one minion will act like a boss. It will process the main list, and every child will have their own list. So if you look at, uh, bottom of your screens, there's the list to watch, where you have like a main list name, list name, uh, which is like list name currently. But once the boss minion look at this list, and it will run at its own frequency that has been specified there. But then, once the item is being processed, it will add this item or entity into list name one or list name two, depending upon the availability of the different minions. So list name one and list name two will be picked up by a different minion, or the child minions, but they will perform exactly the same functionality as of the boss. Not exactly the same functionality, but the intended task they want to do will be performed by the child minions. So yeah, I think I'll keep it pretty short and simple, and I will go on to the demo. Unless if you've got any questions, otherwise I'll go into the demo after this. Let me share my other screen. Can you see my screen, Sandeep? Can you tell me?
Yeah, I'm able to see your screen.
Okay, that's cool. So let's start with this. So as I explained to you, let's look at the code first, and I will run in the debugging mode, and I will explain you the things as we go along. So as you can see, my minion is already executing because I've set up a frequency of 5 minutes, and I think it's been 5 minutes before I set up the first one. So let's go through this and start again. Okay, so what is going to happen is, when you start developing for Sitecore, you will see in the SDK there are set of Postman scripts that have been provided out of box by Sitecore itself. So this is the place where you can test the commerce engine APIs. So most of the people, sometimes people do like they deploy the environment to the IIS and then test the functionality. But when you're testing the APIs, this is the place to do so. You can create your own script, by copying the existing script, or you can write your own new scripts as well. So this is being provided by Sitecore for you, and make use of it. And we'll see like how to create an order, etc., through the Postman, so that our minion can run. So first thing in the minion, I'll cover the basics first. So let me get this screen out of the way. So if you look at, this is my minion, and I'm not sure whether it's visible or not, but I hope it is. So when minion is just another plugin. So when you define a plugin, you have to tell Sitecore where to execute this plugin. So one of the ways to do that is to kind of tell Sitecore using the configure Sitecore method provided by provide used to be created for for every plugin that you're going to create. So what is going to happen in this? I'm sure you must be familiar with the concept of pipelines and the processor in the Sitecore XP. It's a similar way of doing things, but with pipelines instead of processor, we have got blocks. So pipelines are exactly similar to what we have got in Sitecore, but the blocks are kind of similar to processors that we have got in Sitecore XP. So what we are telling Sitecore here is in the line number 19 that okay, create a new add a new pipeline. So previously we used to add the pipeline going into the XML files in XP and add the pipelines there, but with commerce it has been done programmatically. So you will add pipeline, you will call this method, and then you say okay, add my retrieve order block because I want to retrieve the order first and then export the order. So sorry, I should have set up the concept first, context first. What is happening here is like we are trying to retrieve an order which has been placed by the user, and we are trying to export this order to a file system. So that's why I've got two blocks here. So I'm going to retrieve the block and I'm going to export that block to the file system where the export process will actually happen. So these are the two actual processing that is happening, and that's why I segregated these into two blocks. So once you've done that, Sitecore will know that you have instructed the system to insert two blocks. And what you can do is like after this process, once you have defined the baseline, you can go into your Postman and get the token from here. And then there's a DevOps pipeline and get, uh, just a second, get registered pipelines. So here in this, if I send this request now, hopefully it works. Yeah. So I'll just copy into the notepad so that you can see it properly. So see, like, I've added a pipeline which is called export order minion pipeline. It works under the namespace. This is the namespace. What it receives. So, most important thing here is to find, follow the Sitecore execution model. So it receives an export order argument, which is kind of custom, which is not worrying for me at this point in time. But if you're working with any other out of box entities, then you should be returning the same entity back to the pipeline itself. So you can't just inject your code and return something else out of your code, which is being used by the other following pipelines in your system. So we shouldn't be doing that. So when you're receiving something, you should be returning, if you're, for example, if you're overwriting or, if you're kind of replacing a block, you should not be kind of doing something funny, which might impact the other blocks in your execution cycle. So just to be careful about that. It's not going to make any difference in our scenario, but generally it should. And then, it will specify my blocks, which are going to which are going to be executed. Oh, sorry, my minion run again. So yeah, so blocks. So what we're going to do is like retrieve order block and the export order to file block. So these are the blocks. These are the two blocks that we have configured into the configure sitecore.cs. Retrieve order block and the export order to file block. So that's been done. So after this, this code will execute and perform some action. And what's better way to see that in action is is by doing the practical things. So let's place an order using the Postman, and I'll show you how it works. So I've already got a token. Let me check if the cart is clear. Yes, it's clear. So I don't have any amount. So you will with this demo you will also see how to test the commerce environment and how I can do everything which I can do from the storefront via these Postman calls as well. So I will add an optics camera to the cart. Let's do that now. You will see, so currently the cart grand total is 66.92. I will, so once the order is being, of something added to the cart, I need to add a fulfillment method, how the cart will be fulfilled. So I will set a fulfillment method for this cart as well, because it's a camera that we are buying. So that's not a digital item, it's a physical item. So I will set a physical fulfillment of the cart, and it will calculate everything on the fly. So it will calculate the shipping cost as well. So now the cost has gone up by few dollars, and now you can see the 95 and 30 cents. That's been done. Now I have added a fulfillment. Now what's the next step? It's going to, we are going to add a payment method, and the payment method is being set by, we are using a gift card. So Sitecore provides a gift card called GC1 million for testing everything. So this is the body that has been provided by Sitecore. Only thing you need to do is like adjust this amount to match your cart value before you place an order. Otherwise it will play funny, and it's not going to allow you to place the orders as well. So let's send this up. Let's see what happened there. Transaction committed successfully. And yeah, the exact amount has gone payment. So you will see the payment component is being added. So this entity we started as a card now has been now has been kind of updated. Like, we are extending this entity to add different features. So now everything, this entity from the order point of view is complete. Now I'm ready to place my order. So if you go to the order sample APIs, you can see postman call to create an order. So it takes my cart ID, and it takes my email address, and I can create a cart now. Let me do that. Yeah, 9530, and I think the order has been created. So this order has been created in the system from the postman itself. So there's no interaction. We haven't got onto the storefront to create this order. Now, next step is, our minions. So let's look at our minion. So Minion will be available in the Minion environment, in the DevOps environment, in the Minion folder. So our Minion washed a release order list. I'll show you all these things in a while, but let's get going. So I will have to move it from the pending order first. So let's move this. And what I've done is I've created a copy of this and added my stuff. So I've added my Minion full name here, and now I did my, environment name was already there. So just the minion full name by copying this, and it will run my minion now. So if I send this request now, it will run my minion. My minion runs at every 5 minutes, or when I, get through this call in the postman. So what is going to happen here is I'm going to check. I'm going to check my list to watch. Let's see what's the list to watch here. As I mentioned, it's release order. So it will be one. The count will be one. Let's see, how many entities are in the list. Hopefully we'll have one, because the order that we have just placed. So there's the entity that we're getting. So now I will loop through all the because currently we found one, so I don't have to worry about looping. But if we get like multiple, we will have to loop through all the entities that we've got. And then I'll pick up an order ID, and let me put a breakpoint on retrieve order block as well. So where going to happen is on the retrieve order, it will do a find entity pipeline and try to find an order from the system on based on the order ID here. So if because we need to find an order and how you find an entity is like, be it order, customer, or anything, you do it via find entity pipeline. So order is equal to null, then we'll return. Otherwise, we'll have an order. So we'll return an order now. It goes back, and it goes back into the export. So now we have ordered the, we have an order. Now we are exporting this order into this onto the file system. So it creates a, goes through the constructor. So in export order, once we are exporting this order to a file system, what we are going to do is we are going to add a component in it so as to kind of identify that it's been already exported. Otherwise, it will keep on exporting the same order again and persisting the same order again without changes. It will start throwing the error. So this export, when I do a get component on a, on an order, if you look at this entity components, there are 5 components right now. So what get component does is like, it checks if the export order component exists. it will return that. Otherwise, it will create and return the empty one. So let's do that. So now order should have 6 components in it. You can see there. So exported order component has been created for you. And which component this component has got, it hasn't got anything. So date exported is null, file name is null because this order has not been exported so far. Similarly, if you're driving your minion through the policy, for example, like I explained you, whether you want to export to the file or export to the Azure blob, you can get your policy from here. So currently we haven't configured any policy, so you will not get any policy information from here. But what I'm doing is like, I'm converting my order into a string and I'm getting a file name because I'm directly doing it to the file. But if you look at my commented out code, I was checking the policy values, and if it's file, then only I was exporting to file. Otherwise, I will post it to Azure blob, which is the code here. So you can specify all these settings into your policies. Where do you want to export? And I just wanted to kind of keep it commented out just to give you, just to be cautious about the time as well. So yeah, so now what I'm checking is my date exported component has a value or not. It doesn't have any value, which means the order has not been exported. So let's move. And I'll say, okay, stream writer, and then my file name is C colon temp. Let me open this place as well. Let me see if there is any file, if I can remove it as well. Temp. I'll remove all these files and then write it back. Let's see if it writes back. Yeah, it writes back into this. I'll show you this file. In the, it's actually a JSON, and it doesn't matter, to be honest. And then I will. So important thing is I will update the date exported as well. I will put a time now, and into the order component. So my order will be saved into the database with the date time now, which means the order has been exported, and then file name as well. So I've added this, and this is, I'm persisting this pipeline into the, I'm using the persist entity pipeline to save this order into the database. So order will have components, and it will have exported order components. Sorry. And it will have date exported and file name where it's been. So it can be used for logging as well. And next time in this minion run, if it picks up the same order, if it's in the same list, because we are not moving the order of the out of the list, so it will know that I don't have to process this file again because it's already been done. So let me send this request again. Let me see what happens if you've got any order now. Yeah, we have got that order in the list. So now if you look at export order component, it will have some values, which means this order has already been exported. And with this condition, I will return. I will not try to export it again. So that's how the whole minion thing works. So at this point, you can create a new order subscription as well. So if you're working in a subscription scenario, instead of exporting, you can actually move it to another list, which is a subscription list, and which you can tackle differently when the subscription time comes. For example, I run this list, check any order that are due within like next 15 days, any subscription that are due within after 15 days, 15 day maybe example, and then I will automatically create those order into the system which are due like after 15 days. So those orders will be created now, and people will see there in the order history as well, that are due to be delivered in the future. So this is how the whole minion scenario works. And let's quickly look at the configurations because I'm running short of the time, I believe. uh, Sorry. So if you look at the minion policy set, like I specified, you specify the type, wake up interval, you specify the list to watch. In our case, it's a race. So it used to be list to watch before version 9.10, I believe. And now it's list to watch. So they made it an array. So you can have multiple lists which can be watched here. You specify the fully qualified name, items per batch, sleep between the batches. So that's how you specify this thing. And entity set is being defined. Let me find out. Yeah, so these are the entity set that has been defined. So you create a new entity set and you specify into the habitat commerce minion JSON your entity set here. Like just copy paste this entity and then replace the name, this name, with the policy, that content policy set or entity, minion policy set that you have created. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for minions. Let me go back and share my other screen. So guys, I'm done with my presentation. If you've got any questions, you can ask me now. Okay, guys, thank you very much. And if you have, if you want to ask anything follow up or anything, you want to discuss about this presentation or any other topics, feel free to reach out to me on these coordinates. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel so that you get notified about our latest videos. If you want to know more about our services, please head to our website at assurex.co. Thank you very much once again. Take care and stay safe.